than anything that we have seen in a political generation. Now, as Kevin said, I have been in Congress now for 34 years. And those many years ago, I joined the Energy Committee and the Natural Resources Committee. So I have actually attended 68 years of hearings on energy and natural resources issues. And then 3 years ago, Nancy Pelosi created the new special select committee on energy independence and global warming and asked me to be the chair of that. So if you add those additional 3 years, I'm now up to 71 years of hearings on energy and natural resources issues. And I think that we are now on the cusp of being able to successfully implement a huge new energy revolution. Al Gore and I, we were elected in 1976, and we sat next to each other on two subcommittees, on the energy subcommittee and on the telecommunications subcommittee. And what we used to say back then was that information was going to be the oil of the 21st century. Well, information is a very, very important and huge part of the 21st century with all these new technologies. But oil is the oil of the 21st century, and coal is the energy source of the 21st century. And our responsibility is to make sure that we finally put in place policies so that we can make the transition to the new alternative means by which we can generate electricity within our country. Now, back in the early 1990s, I was the chairman of the Telecommunications Committee, and I put in place 3 bills. And those 3 bills created a technological and investing revolution. The first was a bill in 1992, which created the 18-inch satellite dish industry. And that created a revolution in the ways in which people were able to receive information even in the remotest parts of this country or around the planet. The second bill, in 1993, I moved over 200 megahertz of spectrum to create the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th cell phone license in every city in the United States, while prohibiting the first 2 companies from bidding for that spectrum. The first 2 companies were analog and 50 cents a minute. We did not have cell phones in our pocket. By 1996, with the 4 new companies who all went digital, lowered their price to under 10 cents a minute, we had a wireless revolution that was on. And the first 2 companies had to move to that digital revolution. And the third bill was the 1996 Telecommunications Act, although it passed in the House of Representatives in 1994. And that basically allowed the cable companies, the telephone companies, the long-distance companies, anyone who wanted to get in to provide every single service, long-distance, local, information, cable services, everyone could do everything. And the broadband revolution was on. In 1996, when President Clinton signed that bill, not one home in America had broadband. In February of 1996, not one home in America had broadband. 10 years later, Google, Amazon, eBay, YouTube, Hulu, thousands of companies, 2 million jobs, a revolution that not only affected our country, but the whole world. $850 billion worth of private sector investment, because we changed the incentives. We changed the way in which we viewed those issues. So when Speaker Pelosi asked me to chair this select committee on energy independence and global warming, she asked me to create a new way that we could view these energy issues. And of course, I wasn't going to give her a new way to look at the issues. I was going to be giving them a way in which the Union of Concerned Scientists told me in 1979 we should be viewing these issues. And so I created a 3-bill strategy for energy. The first bill passed in 2007. In it, as Kevin said, is the language that I wrote that increased our fuel economy standards from 25 to 35 miles per gallon. The first increase since 1975. great privilege for me to stand over George Bush's shoulder and see him sign the bill that increased the human economy standards for our country. And then, in February of this year, inside of the stimulus bill, inside of this economic package that we put together, $80 billion for renewable energy resources in our country. Billions of dollars for new battery research and plant construction across our country, so that we could begin to fund this alternative energy means of production truly for the first time in a way that matched the severity of the challenge to our planet. And then the third bill that Kevin referred to. This third bill is the Waxman-Markey bill. So Henry Waxman and I, in January, we said we are going to put together, he and I have sat together next to each other for 34 years, waiting for this day, waiting for the inauguration of Barack Obama. And so we said this will be our first agenda item. We will put together this bill and we will finish it before the 4th of July. Every expert said we could not do it. Well, every political expert. Kevin, of course, was chairing this group that was down in Washington, saying we are going to work as partners to finish this legislation. And so when this legislation passed, 219 to 212 on the House floor on June 26th, it was about as fundamental a game-changing moment in the history of energy and climate change as could be imaginable. Because in that legislation, what we were able to do was to, for the first time, put a price on carbon. And inside of this legislation, we reduced by 2% per year greenhouse gases emanating from the United States for every year for 40 years in a row, until there was an 80% reduction by the year 2050. We build in a 20% renewable electricity standard by the year 2020 in the United States of America, so that we telescope the time frame it takes for this wind and solar and geothermal and other renewable energy resources to come to market. We increase by 50% the efficiency, energy efficiency in all new buildings in the United States by the year 2016. My mother always said, Eddie, you've got to learn how to work smarter and not harder. And that's what energy efficiency is. She would always say that, by the way, immediately after saying that she was going to donate my brain to Harvard Medical School as a completely unused human organ. Anyway, that's the essence of this bill. How do we take all of these technologies which are there and make them work for our country, so that we are the world's leader and not laggard, which is what we have become on all of these issues. And so what we've got here now is an incredible challenge, because the telecom marketplace wound up investing $850 billion in the private sector in new technologies. The energy sector is 4 times larger than the tech sector. And so here we have a tremendous opportunity to have a public-private partnership, but mostly private, once we get the incentives correct for this revolution to take off and to bring these technologies to marketplace and to increase the speed with which these new technologies improve and revolutionize our relationship with the energy which we consume in our country. So under our legislation, solar energy will